when people come together collectively with the same intention, with the same energy, then there is the intensity that takes us into this recognition effortlessly. When we are sitting alone, sometimes it seems very difficult because there is all the conditioning that is acting and we trying to struggle with it. But when we are in satsang, we have this collective energy and everyone is having the same intent, the same purpose, and we come together. And then when we leave satsang, we carry the same energy with us because it lifts us up, and in that we can feel the recognition of the divine here and now. And then when we leave satsang, we are still in the same embrace of the divine because the very energy of satsang remains the flavor through the day. So of course the real flowering is when we are in satsang throughout the day, every moment. And that happens, as we already pointed out, through attention and love, which both go together. When there is attention and there is love, then there is satsang every moment because we are in the embrace of truth. Sat means truth, and satsang is simply being in the embrace of truth. So we can be always in satsang through attention and love. But when we gather together, then it gives us the clarity, removes the muddle in the heads, brings attention fully, and that carries us forward throughout the day. So that's the whole beauty of satsang. And when we are together in this way, especially when we are from different parts of the world, it's so nice to see everyone and journey together in truth. Satyaham nija vicharanam. That is the heart of the whole work. Patati means false. Aham is the me. I patati aham nija vicharanam. That when the false I goes away, that is true inquiry, which is true abidance. The false I goes away through recognizing the nature of me that is coming forth as the I thought, and it is dissolved in attention and surrender. Total attention, which is total surrender to what is the way to be free of the me. Many times we are looking at, for instance, even the word jnana and bhakti, which is exactly what they represent, are many times seen as two different ways, but in reality they are one and the same. And that recognition is very essential to be not caught in any division again. Because jnana is not understanding and bhakti is not sentimental attachment of any kind. Any kind of sentimental attachment to any projected form of divine is limited. It can be an aid, but it's limited. That's why in Ulladu Narpadu, he says, Ramana Maharishi says, that it's manomaya kachi, means it says it's a mind projected scene, and it can be of aid, but it's limited because it can also cause conditioning, cause division, and ideas such as my God and your God and so on. But when one is fully surrendered to the divine and seeing him everywhere and in everyone, that's true bhakti. Similarly, jnana is not about understanding scriptures, studying more and more, learning more commentaries. There is no end to that. So that's why in Gita, for instance, there are some places the word jnana is used as the highest expression of devotion. But then in another place, Krishna would say that bhakti is greater than jnana. So if we read it carefully, we will see that what is pointed to is scriptural knowledge is always secondary. So in that context, jnana is secondary to true love and attention. But if there is true recognition of the divine, that is real jnana, and that is the supreme bhakti as well. So there is no difference between bhakti and jnana in its ultimate sense. But in its partial sense, both of them are limited and they can be an aid, just as bhakti is an aid. Reading scriptures, understanding the essence of scriptures is an aid. It can help one clear the mind. It can, first of all, elevate one's thinking. See, many times we are caught in thinking which is very, um, we can say, mundane. And we are caught in thinking about gossips or thinking about unnecessary political issues or world issues or domestic issues or family issues. This is what occupies the minds of many most of the times. So the very first thing that is done by what is called as Shastra Vichara or inquiring into the true higher scriptures is elevates the mind. It takes one out of the muck of all the mundane into the sublime. So to that extent, it's very beautiful to read any true scripture, whether it be the ancient ones or whether it be the modern scriptures of the true sages. So when we read Upadesha Saram as it was chanted, that's scripture that has come from a sage recently. And Upanishads are scriptures that have come from sages of the ancients. It doesn't matter because it's timeless. So when we read this, it gives us into a glimpse into the infinite. Otherwise, we may be caught in very worldly thoughts and in just that which is transient. So that's why the Vedic dictum it says is simple living and high thinking. Many times we do the opposite, which is our living is very elaborate and our thinking is very shallow. So that's the problem with modern society at large, in fact, is that our living is very luxurious, elaborate. There is so many various paraphernalia we have, and it takes us all the time also because then we have to maintain everything. We have to take care of this, take care of that. and then there is no room for high thinking. So the pointer of Vedic life, Vedic dictum, the sages is the opposite, which is simple living and high thinking. So simplify one's life to what is necessary. And what is necessary is, of course, different for different people. So there is no one formula that one has to go and live in a hut or something. That's not like that. It's just what is simple for one's own situation. First of all, not adding complexities is itself a great thing. Wherever one is, if you don't buy more things or just not acquire unnecessary stuff, then that itself is a first step towards simplicity. Then if we can get rid of things that's not necessary and just see what is needed to live peacefully, because one has to take care of one's basic needs, and basic needs of course are different for different people, based on situation, based on family position, based on health and all the rest. But whatever it is, one has to be very intelligent about what my needs are and keep it to that level. And then free up bandwidth. Like in a different context, Nick mentioned bandwidth of the brain, which is also true. Similarly, our time and energy also has certain bandwidth. And if all that bandwidth is taken up, most of it is taken up in all these other activities, then we have very limited bandwidth for diving into the infinite. We are caught in the finite activities all the time. So if we simplify life and engage in high thinking, then that gives us the ability to soar like an eagle. Otherwise, we are just caught in the earthly realm. That's in fact the symbolism of eagle being the bird of Vishnu, because eagle flies very high and it has very clear, the sharpest vision is for the eagle. So that symbolizes how we have to live. Be very clear eyed and not be caught in earthly attachments. So when we are able to think high and look into these matters, then that helps us be free. But first understand how the psyche plays a corrupting role in everyone. Then we are not caught in specifics of why he is like this, or why this country is like this, or why this religion is like this, because everyone, everything is coming out of the same ground, and they are caught in the same disease, which is the egoic identification. Then we are not analyzing the specifics. Like I always say, if you, let's say, go to a talk that was given in the 70s, just to take a random time, about the politics of the 70s, it has no value now. But if you listen to a talk given in the 70s about self knowledge, it is just as relevant. And the same is true not just of 70s, but of just any time. So when we are engaging our time to, we have to see, are we engaging in that which is timeless, or just things which are absolutely meaningless even 1 year from now, let alone 50 years or 100 years from now. So if we are engaging in that which is timeless, and that's where Shastras help, because they elevate the mind to contemplate on that which is timeless. Self-knowledge helps when we listen to a great sage, or when we read a book, or when we contemplate, then we are not caught in the mundane. But then there is also the flip side, which is why it is said to be a limited aid. It is a great aid, but it's still limited because it can become its own vasana. That's called a Shastra vasana. then one can keep on reading and listening and watching talks after talks on YouTube and reading book after book, and that becomes its own attachment. So to be free of that is essential. So that's why that's not true jnana. It can be an aid to listen to a talk or read a book, but real jnana is to recognize in our activities where we are trapped. So that's why it is reading the book of life that is jnana. Our life is the book that unfolds every moment. And that's the only book we need to read. Finally, all other books are only an aid to read this one book. And when this book is read clearly, then we know exactly where we are. And by knowing, we are free. The very understanding liberates us. When we are not understanding where we are, then we delude ourselves into all kinds of fancy ideas. But when we understand where I am caught, whether I am caught in religious identification or nationalistic identification or some relationship identification or money identification, there are so many ways in which the me is caught. And each moment it reveals itself. So all that is needed is only attention each moment. We don't have to sit and analyze everything. That is never ending. And that's not needed. We just have to remain in attention each moment. And that very attention reveals everything. And when we transcend through love, then everything is dissolved. Then we don't carry, when there is love, there is no religious division, there is no nationalistic division, there is no division of any kind. There is just total unconditional love. But for that to flower, there needs to be attention to the false me. Both go hand in hand, in fact. And to recognize the false me and negating it is the same coin. There's two sides of the coin. One side is the negation of the false me, and the other side is the flowering of unconditional love. Both are hand in hand. It's 12th chapter is Bhakti Yoga. So you just read what I was going to say and chanted it. Very beautiful chant. See, there is a verse there which points, every verse in fact points to the same truth. It's a beautiful verse. It says, Yasman no dvijate loko, lokan no dvijate cha yaha. So that one line is enough to recognize what is pointed to. So it says, Yasman no dvijate loko, by who the world is not disturbed. And loka no dvijate chayaha, and who is not disturbed by the world. So both ways. So Krishna says in that verse, and then harsha marsha bhayodvegair muktaha yah sa me priyah, one who is free of excitement and fear and so on. So the very first line he says, the one who doesn't disturb the world and the one who is not disturbed by the world. That is the essence of being in attention and love. When we are not in attention and when we are not in unconditional love, both happen. And some happen more for one, some for the other. As it is said, some people, they don't get disturbed, but they disturb everyone else. So there is that. And then there are those who get disturbed themselves and they think, I'm the victim of this, I'm the victim of that. And they live in victimhood and they feel disturbed by everything. to be free of both, to neither cause disturbance to anyone else and to not be disturbed by anyone else. See, it's very beautiful how Krishna says he is a devotee. Me priya. So the one who is in this whole chapter, the beauty of this whole chapter, in fact, is every verse. What Krishna points to is the state of a pure, equanimous, wise being who alone is the true devotee. He says the one in the next, in fact, one of the other verses, it says Sarvaramba Parityagi Me Priyaha. So he says the one who doesn't have any sense of doership is dear to me. So all of this points again to what we were saying earlier, that wisdom and devotion are one and the same. Every verse in this that Suresh just chanted points to the state of a jnani. Only a true bhakta is a true jnani and otherwise aren't too. And that is true yoga too. Because as Krishna says in the second chapter, Samatvam Yoga Uchyate. Equanimity is yoga. And here also we saw one of the verses we just heard where he says, one who treats Sukha and Dukkha the same, one who treats happiness and sadness equally. So that is the characteristic of a yogi. So yoga is not practicing some discipline ultimately. Those all can be aids, just as uh, we said reading scriptures can be an aid to a certain extent. Similarly, practicing yogic disciplines can be an aid. Having the right posture is very important, because many times if you don't have the right posture, then the energy is drooping and there is no room for attention. So maintaining the right posture is very essential. That's all yoga. I mean, asana is just having the right posture. Many times people get caught up in hundreds of asanas, but the whole pointer is, as the sutra say, sthiram sukham asanam, right? That which is stable and gives comfort without any problem is very important, because if the back is straight and the spine is erect, then we have energy flowing freely. Similarly, breathing correctly is very essential. These are all aids and they are all good. But true yoga is not learning hundreds of asanas or breathing techniques. True yoga is remaining in equanimity. Samatvam yoga uchyate. So same is true devotion, same is true wisdom. So attention, love, equanimity. These are all expressions of the same state of being. And that comes forth with this alert awareness. One who is not alert, one who is inattentive, cannot be in any of that. So that's why it's ultimately everything comes together or there is nothing. So if we awaken love, then equanimity comes on its own, attention is already there. And that is through being very attentive and seeing how can I serve in this situation, as we already pointed out. So if there is one thing we can take away, so to speak, that is just the way we relate to things and to people with an attitude of loving service, and let that loving service guide our actions. Then that will place everything in the right place, and that will put thinking in its right place. everything will fall in the right place when the inner core is rooted in loving service. That's the true spirit of devotion. Even in Bhagavatam, again, Kapila, there is a beautiful story of Kapila who gives his instructions to his mother Devahuti, and he there too brings to the same ground. He speaks of Sankhya and Yoga and Jnana and Bhakti. And he says all of this comes to seeing the divine in everyone and everything. It's not about some experience for the self. It is not about having some special state that comes and goes. All of that are transitory. The only thing that is ever present is the presence of the divine. And if we pay attention to that, then there is nobody here except the divine. So we can see that silence is not something to be sought, it comes on its own. When we are clear of what prevents silence, that's enough. Silence comes on its own. There is no thinking that is not necessary rising then. All thinking comes only because of inattentive identification with various concepts. When we see through clearly and see the falsity of all identities through looking at them clearly, that is meditation. So, meditation is not just sitting with eyes closed, but discussion is meditation, listening is meditation, contemplating is meditation. All of it, when it's done with seriousness and total attention, then every moment can be meditation. And as we've been engaged in discussing and listening, chanting, all of that, we can see just brings about silence where there is no effort to be silent. Silence descends like beautiful rain on its own. And when activity happens, it also happens on its own from that ground of silence. Thinking falls in its right place. Clock time is necessary to do whatever we need to think, and there is no psychological time created. To function in clock time and not in psychological time is the essence of freedom.